and that's all we know on earth and all we need to know, and they clearly have a relation to one another. So if you are ignorant about these arguments for God, which I think a lot of people are, go out. This is a really clear book. It's really concise. You can read it quickly. This isn't an 800-page tome. It's really a nice overview of these arguments for God. I'm certain that you'll be convinced if you take the argument seriously enough. And so go check it out. It's Going Deeper, a Reasoned Exploration of God and Truth by Leo Severino. Leo, thank you for being here. Good to have you, and we'll have to have you back.
Congratulations on all your good work, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, before we bring on our panel, before we do that, we got to pay for our Christmas presents. We don't just get to present all of our Christmas presents like John McCain giving us tax cuts and all the weird sex stuff on the Democratic side. We got to pay for that, folks. This is capitalism. So we need to first talk about Helix Sleep. Helix Sleep, the one thing I really love about these guys is they keep the lights on. The other thing I really love about them is they make easy one of the most frustrating and difficult experiences that people every few years have to deal with, and that's shopping for a mattress. I've moved around a little bit from Connecticut, New York, LA. I always have to get a new mattress. The stores make it pretty difficult. You can never get one that's really custom made for you. They all mark up the prices and they use different names, so you can't really compare costs. It's a frustrating endeavor. Helix Sleep solves all of those problems. So, there are a ton of online mattress retailers. They're popping up all over the place. What makes Helix the best? Well, all those other ones, they have a one-size-fits-all solution to a better sleep. But guess what? One size does not fit all. I won't tell any tales out of school, but sharing a bed with my fiance, we have different preferences on the bed. I like it a little harder. She likes it a little softer. She likes to rip all the covers off. It gets very messy. Helix Sleep offers something that doesn't exist anywhere else, a mattress that's personalized to your unique preferences and sleeping style that won't set you back thousands of dollars. So if you go to helixsleep.com/Knowles, that's Knowles, like who, like Beyonce, take their simple 2 to 3 minute sleep quiz. They will build you a custom mattress that will be the best thing you've ever slept on. I hate spending time filling out questionnaires and things. I will not spend more than 5 minutes. This will take half that time, just 2 to 3 minutes. Trust me, you spend a third of your life sleeping. I spend about 2/3 of my life sleeping. It really matters what you're sleeping on. Make sure that you get something good. For couples, they'll even personalize each side of the mattress. Everyone is talking about it, from GQ to Cosmo to the New York Times. They're talking about Helix, and once you try it out, you will know why. It might be the first true story the New York Times has published in a while. Your custom mattress arrives direct to your door in a week. Shipping is completely free. How long can you try it? For 100 nights. If you don't love it, they will pick it up and refund you in full. So go to helixsleep.com/Knowles right now. While you're there, maybe you get the mattress protector, maybe you get the foundation, I don't know. Give it a look. Definitely give these mattresses a look. helixsleep.com/Knowles. You will get $50 toward your custom mattress. That's just for my listeners. That's just for a little extra covfefe Christmas present. helixsleep.com/Knowles, $50 off your order. helixsleep.com/what, Marshall?
Knowles.
You nailed it right there. That's why we keep them around. All right, thanks to Helix Sleep. Now let's get to the presents. Let's open up the presents, baby. It is Christmas time in November. We have to bring on the panel. We have Jason Russell from the Washington Examiner and Vincent Butta of Live from Studio 6B. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let's get right into it. It is a chilly day in hell. Senator John McCain tweets, quote, "After careful consideration, I have decided to support the Senate tax reform bill. Though not perfect, this bill will deliver much-needed reform to our tax code, grow the economy, and provide long-overdue tax relief for American families." Let's just have a moment. Let's try to process this without our brains frying up. Vincent, is this possible? Is he going to pull the rug out from under us, or are we going to get tax reform?
Well, I say thank you, John McCain, finally coming to your senses. But, this guy's hatred for Trump has just gone way too far. It's like, listen, the topic that we're talking about right now is we're so happy and surprised he's actually gone along with it, right? Mm-hmm. Something he's run on, something the whole party believes in. And we're like, oh, thank you, John McCain. Well, this is what he should do, not let his personal hatred of Donald Trump change how he votes on things or policy, So, for me, it's very frustrating. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you, John McCain. Hallelujah. It is Christmas.
I know. I didn't think I would be saying that phrase before the end of the year, but thanks, John McCain, as long as you follow through. Jason, Marco Rubio and Mike Lee have proposed an amendment to this tax reform bill to raise the corporate tax rate from 20% to 22% in exchange for higher child care credits. Since when is it up to conservatives? Since when is it the conservative opinion that a 20% corporate tax rate is too low?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting amendment they have, and I think it's an interesting conservative debate about whether you want to increase the child tax credit as a result of that. I don't personally think it's a great idea. I would rather see that corporate tax rate stay at 20%, and then the child tax credit stay at the current rate that it is at the proposal. So. I hopefully this doesn't blow up the whole thing. I say put it up for a vote, and if it gets enough 50 votes and they say go for it, then fine. I still think that even if that is included, it's still a better bill than the status quo. And I hope that Mike Lee and Marco Rubio agree. I hope even if this amendment doesn't get included, that they will still vote for tax reform, because this is much better than the status quo, including in terms of the child tax credit.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually just confused about why Mike Lee would put his name on this. I understand little Marco might want to get a little squishy. He's the favorite conservative of every conservative who lives surrounded by liberals. But Mike Lee is a pretty rock-ribbed guy. It's hard to get more right-wing and conservative than him. Vincent, why is Mike Lee on board with this?
Oh, boy, I say that's a great question, because it's shocking to me that Mike Lee's on board with that overall. So I don't really know why he's doing this. The only things I could surmise is that many Republicans, and we have seen this particularly in the last year, seem to be somewhat scared of the Democrats and what they may want. So they try to proactively react so they can get things through while they control everything. That,
right.
The House and the Senate. So you have Republicans like Rubio and now Lee, I think, reacting to those things. Listen, as your other guest just said, I agree. Even with this, it's still a better deal. So I'll take that. But Mike Lee, this is really strange, unless he's feeling some pressure from voters in his neck of the woods that are on the left and thinking we got to do something more with child care credits.
And that is the trouble. It's very easy for me, because all I have to do is talk to this microphone and look into the camera. It's very easy for me to say we should have a 15% corporate tax rate, and it doesn't matter that we need to increase the child tax credit. But I don't have to answer to constituents. These guys do. It's a much harder TV ad when it says Mike Lee voted for corporations instead of giving your children some extra money or whatever. I do understand that. That said, I don't know. He's a rock-ribbed guy, and I'm just surprised at him, and I wish that we could be more rock-ribbed about this. I was pushing for that 15% corporate tax rate, but sure, I'll take what I can get, especially if John McCain's on board. It's a lot harder to make the sausage than it is to go criticize and look at the sausage factory. Jason, one aspect of this that has gotten a lot of attention is graduate students. So for tuition, right now graduate students do not have to pay income tax on their tuition credits. Let's say the grad school pays them 20 grand a year in stipends. They also pay them 30 grand a year as tuition, but you never see that. They just keep the money, and it's a matter of accounting. Now their taxable income could go to that full $50,000. My fiance is a graduate student. I could be personally negatively affected by this. But that said, who cares? There was a walkout yesterday among graduate students. There was a big national protest, the big walkout. What they misunderstand is that for a walkout to work, you have to provide a service. So there has to be a demand for your service, but there's no service being provided. They can just keep on walking. Do you think that we ought to rectify this aspect of the tax proposal, or should we let the universities sort it out and let the grad students pay a little more?
Yeah, I could see this either way. In my personal opinion, I side a little bit with the graduate students on this one. And that's because, again, like you said, this is kind of an accounting thing. The universities don't actually give this money to the students. They just keep it basically and say, well, we'll take money off of your tuition and the cost of that, right? So it's not, it doesn't really seem like income. It's basically just saying, the university saying, well, we're going to give you this service for free instead of paying for you to then just give it straight back to us.
But that service is pretty expensive. That's an in-kind donation, at least, right? Shouldn't it be regulated as such?
Yeah. And so I could see it either way, like I said. But again, it's not a huge deal to me. And when it comes to that walkout thing, I don't see how that's going to be effective. Maybe that makes some noise on your college campus, but the members of Congress are not on your college campus. They're here in D.C. So how they expect to make a big stink with a walkout on their own college campuses that no one in D.C. or in Congress is going to notice, I don't know.
And as you point out, this is a matter of accounting. If the universities aren't going to lose all of their consumers, all of their customers, they're not going to let it happen. So they'll probably just account for tuition in a different way and get around all of this. But as a matter, the American campuses have been in crisis for decades, for 40 years. Alan Bloom wrote it expertly in The Closing of the American Mind. There's a crisis not only of the institution, but of liberal education generally. These crazy fields of study. They usually end in studies. Harold Bloom, the great literary critic, referred to it as the school of resentment. It isn't a serious engagement with scholarship. It's basically political activism masquerading as scholarship. As the left frequently does, it hollows out great institutions, and then they just become zombie institutions for their political agendas. It doesn't seem to me that we need as many graduate students as we have. It seems to me, especially when I talk to my friends, millennials, who have a ton of student debt, very few career prospects in the academy, it's virtually impossible to get a job. It seems to me not a terrible thing that we would maybe disincentivize or stop subsidizing people from following this path. It doesn't seem like a great path for a lot of them. And for those who are the elite of the elite and the intellectual elite, they'll find the money. The universities will account for it, I think, and they can find outside funding as well. It does not seem to me that we should be the solution to this awful crisis of intellect and of scholarship over the last 40 years. It doesn't seem to me that we will be correcting it by continuing to subsidize the perpetrators. But that's just me. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate mail from my millennial pals after saying that. Let's move on to more shocking news. Let's move on. We have you're not going to believe this one. Hold your breath. If you've had any hot drinks, please spit it out now or swallow. The Democrats are holding their own accountable for their weird sex crimes. We didn't expect this either, but here is Nancy Pelosi explaining the issue with John Conyers.
The allegations against Congressman Conyers, as we have learned more since Sunday, are serious, disappointing, and very credible. It's very sad. The brave women who came forward are owed justice. I pray for Congressman Conyers and his family and wish them well. However, Congressman Conyers should resign. As Dean, Congressman Conyers has served our Congress for more than 5 decades and shaped some of the most consequential legislation of the last half-century. However, zero tolerance means consequences for everyone. No matter how great the legacy, it's no license to harass or discriminate.
There is a lot to dissect in that statement. John Conyers, by the way, is the Dean of the House of Representatives. He's the longest-serving representative in Congress. He's a Democrat. He's been around since the Johnson administration. He's been serving since the 1960s. Vincent, why are they willing to throw John Conyers under the bus, but not Al Franken?
Oh, my goodness. First of all, Nancy Pelosi goes on Meet the Press, and she doesn't have a big issue with it. She's saying, well, they need to investigate it, and I don't know. I don't know the women who said this. Do I believe them or not? I don't know. She had all these defensive things to say because there was no chance that she was going to support this or trying to have him removed or anybody else removed because they seem to just all be like a flock of sheep following each other blindly. Then she gets pressure put on her from those comments from Meet the Press, which even people on the left were appalled by. One thing that people don't talk about with this whole situation, he paid someone off. Mm-hmm. He used monies to silence someone that accused him of something. That's, admitting guilt. It's not just a couple of women coming out and saying he groped her or did this and that, which is bad enough.
There were threats, there were payoffs, absolutely. Jason,
so that's what drives me crazy.
Jason, is Al Franken next? Are they going to let these other guys fall, or is Conyers just the old, desiccated, no longer politically useful corpse of the sacrificial lamb?
Yeah, I think it's Franken hasn't been thrown under the bus yet because he's a little bit more prominent. One, as a senator, but two, because he's famous Al Franken. Everyone knows him from Saturday Night Live. He's the funny man in the Senate.
He's good enough. He's smart enough, and God doggone it, Democrats like him.
Yeah.
Yes, but if the accusations against him continue to grow, which I think they probably will, then I expect at some point they will start to say, yes, Franken has to go as well. There's just really no excuse for the kind of behavior that he's been doing.
I don't know. You're more optimistic than me, I think. You give them more credit than I do. I think Conyers is about 150 years old and useless, and they can toss him under the bus and not sacrifice their younger, more promising talent. But maybe I'm just a little cynical. I don't know. Let's get to
years.
Let's get to
Think
this.
about that.
Yeah. Let's get to this wonderful clip. This might have been my favorite clip of all. From The Daily Show, Trevor Noah called Donald Trump woke, and he slammed Elizabeth Lie-awatha Warren. Here's the clip.
I don't think Donald Trump was actually trying to offend those Native American war veterans. I know it's crazy to say it, but he doesn't care about them. He saw an opportunity to feud with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, because he's been calling her Pocahontas long before he met with these heroes. You might be thinking, wait, Trevor, I'm confused. Is Elizabeth Warren Native American? And you see, that's the question. But in his own way, he's hitting Elizabeth Warren for saying she was Native American when she wasn't. Something she's never apologized for or owned up to. So as weird as it is to say, in his own racially offensive way, Donald Trump was being woke. Yeah. And that's unfortunately the truth. And like a Bernie Sanders pop album, the truth isn't always something we want to hear.
Unbelievable. Every late night show, every single one, I think there are now 750 across network and cable, they are all left wing. Every single one of them, all they do is make Trump jokes. Stephen Colbert would have been canceled if not for Donald Trump. It gave him a new surge. But all of these guys put together get not very many more viewers than in the old days Jay Leno used to get just by himself. Jay Leno was a much more middle America, even keel, not that political comedian. Is this a sign, Vincent, that comedians are finally realizing that maybe they shouldn't utterly ignore and mock half of the country? Or is it just the case that Elizabeth Warren is such a joke they couldn't resist making it?
How long can they continue the hypocrisy is really my question. You know, I used to like Trevor Noah too, but like Stephen Colbert and others, it's all hate comedy. But he's right. You know, if you think about how Donald Trump operates, he points out hypocrisy, and that's what he was pointing out. And these late night comedians, what I don't understand, here's my big question. They're alienating 50% of the audience every time they pull one of these hate jokes they use. Now, the fact that Trevor Noah actually came out and said something truthful, you didn't hear the audience respond, by the way.
Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop.
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't believe it. If this was anything bad against Trump, it would have been a standing ovation and the wave would have been done. You know,
I didn't put it in that
hypocrisy.
Clip, but he did say, he prefaced his comments where he said basically Trump is right about this and Liz Warren is despicable for pretending to be a Native American. He had to preface it by saying, look, I think Trump is racist and everything. And then they started mooing and hooing and cheering. But that was just perfunctory. He had to do it or they would have stormed out. Jason, has Trump permanently branded Liz Warren as a fraud, as a deceiver? You know, Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb, Lion Ted, those things stuck like glue. Does she have a chance in 2020 if she is just forever Pocahontas?
I don't think she has a chance in 2020, but I don't think it's because of Pocahontas.
A lot of other reasons.
I think it's people will be like, oh, Bernie Sanders again, but you know, this time it's slightly different.
Yeah, less funny. The humorless Bernie.
Yeah, less funny, less interesting to watch, give speeches, things like that. I don't think she has a chance because of that. She's just not very fun to watch. Doesn't give great speeches, and most of all, does not connect with ordinary Americans and middle America and what they stand for and what they believe in. So. You know, perhaps the Pocahontas thing will stick by her. Maybe she'll eventually have to apologize for that. Maybe even her Democratic opponents would attack her on that. But we'll see. But there are lots of reasons she's not going to win in 2020, and that is a minor one, if one at all.
I love that pitch to Democrat voters, like a Hollywood pitch. You know, okay, listen, here's the nominee. She's going to have all of the intellect of a desiccated old socialist who can't hold a job, but she'll be a humorless scold. Isn't that what America? Why isn't that what Middle America is going to vote for? I don't think so.
That's what we want to hear.
Too bad,
Yeah.
Gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Excellent to have you both. We will have to get you back again. And yeah, Jason, Vincent, thank you for being here. And we have to move on to the mailbag.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we get into the mailbag, we have some business to clear up. It's the capitalism. Listen, Christmas shopping is very expensive. I got to keep the lights on. I'm even considering keeping Marshall employed for Christmas. So we'll have to get to another excellent sponsor of ours, Stamps.com. Now, these days, you can get anything you want on a millennial. I do not leave my chair. I do not want to spend more money than I have to. I get deals every week. The entire world is brought in through my computer at my desk to me. I published a presidentially endorsed #1 bestseller without moving anything. I didn't even move my fingers to type. It was just all blank. So as a millennial, and anyone else who's living in the 21st century, you've got to check out Stamps.com. Anything you can do at the post office, you can do right now from your desk with Stamps.com. You can buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your own computer and printer. Unlike the post office, Stamps.com never closes. When I usually wake up about 3 p.m., 3:30 on days when I'm not doing the show. I'll occasionally roll over and do the show. And at that point, the post office might be closed by the time I roll out of bed. Stamps.com is open 24/7. So I really like this, especially as a small business solution. In the old days, they used to have these giant clunky machines for postage, and they didn't work. They would always break. They were expensive. It's the 21st century, guys. You don't need to go outside for anything. Have it come to you. Take advantage of this. It's cheaper, and you don't have to move as much. This is not a hard sell. This is not a hard calculation to make. So right now, if you use my code, and you know what my code is? My code is COFEFE, COVFEFE, COFEFE. It is a wonderful adjective to describe wonderful services like this. You'll get a special offer. You'll get a 4-week free trial. That includes postage and a digital scale. I am just offering you 2 things, free stuff and the ability to type in COFEFE as a promo code because it's 2017. Do not wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, don't click. I know you're going to want to see all the deals and stuff. Don't do it. Before you do anything else, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in, what should they type in? COFEFE, COVFEFE, Stamps.com, enter COFEFE, COVFEFE, Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. I won't. You sold me. Okay, we've got to get to the mailbag. We have to change your lives for the better. So the first question is from Justin. Dear patron saint of smug Catholics, I'm an evangelical curious about Catholicism, but one major point I don't understand is the Church's reverence for the Virgin Mary. Why is she considered so much greater than other biblical figures that have furthered the faith like St. Paul, Moses, John the Baptist, etc.? Love the show, Justin. Thanks, Justin. That's a good question. Consider the question. I don't mean to mock your question at all. I get this a lot, and it's a serious question raised by a lot of Christians. But consider the question. You've just asked, why do Catholics venerate the Mother of God? Basically, that's the answer. That's the end of it. Mary is the Mother of God, chosen by God to be the new Ark of the Covenant, right? She is, in her womb, is God, conceived by the Holy Spirit, out of which he becomes man. When we recite the Nicene Creed, we kneel at that point when we say Christ was conceived of the Holy Spirit and he became man through the Virgin Mary. That is a miracle second only to the resurrection, the physical and the metaphysical uniting in Mary's womb. But the other reason, there are endless reasons as to why we ought to venerate and adore Mary as the mother of our Lord, and a mother that he has given to us from the cross when he says to the Apostle John, behold your mother, mother, behold your son. He gives her to us as a mother. But the other reason is that there is this essential marriage, this beautiful marriage of grace and liberty that we find in the infancy narratives. Right now I'm reading Jesus of Nazareth, the Infancy Narratives by Pope Benedict XVI. It is a wonderful little book. It reads like poetry. I'm reading it at the recommendation of the Supreme Master of the Multiverse, Andrew Clavin. You have to read it for Advent. It is just so beautiful, and savor it. You could read the whole thing in 2 hours, but you really read it slowly. It's really beautiful. And there is this essential combination of grace and liberty in Mary. Pope Benedict describes it as all of the heavens holding their breath when the angel Gabriel comes down and says, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. You found favor with the Lord, and you're going to birth the Son of God. He'll be born of you." And they all wait because she has to obey. It isn't purely there isn't just purely grace. We're humans with a free will, and that freedom has to come too. So God comes down the mountain, offers everything to us, but we have the free will to turn away from God. Mary does not turn away from God. She accepts it. Her response is, "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." And in that obedience, we have the salvation of the world. So that's just part of it. There are plenty of other reasons as well for why Mary is a pretty cool lady, and we all like her very much. But that's an introduction, and I recommend certainly Googling it, but reading more about Mary, studying Marianology a little bit, and understanding how the veneration of Mary has come about, because I think there's a Protestant misconception that it's this weird pagan thing, but certainly that isn't the case. Mary does sit right at the inception of human salvation, right at the heart of it. It begins in her womb. All right, I want to keep changing your life for the better, folks, but we got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. If you are already a subscriber, thank you very much. You keep Covfefe in my mug. Now is a great time, by the way, Christmas time, to subscribe to the Daily Wire. Treat yourself. It's been a good year, a very Covfefe year. We've gotten a lot of great stuff out of it. Or you could give a gift subscription. In any case, go to dailywire.com right now. What do you get? You get me, you get the Andrew Klavan Show, you get the Ben Shapiro Show. Yeah. You get no ads on the website. That's kind of cool. But you get this. You get the Leftist Tears Tumbler. We're talking a lot about religion right now. It is not as sacred as holy water. It is not as sacred as that, but it is pretty sweet, guys. It's below, but it's not that far below. The Leftist Tears, they are so delicious. They're even fairly comforting. You can have them hot or cold, always salty and delicious. We're getting a nice batch from Nancy Pelosi and John Conyers and Al Franken right now. Obviously, Matt Lauer has given us case after case after case. So make sure that you can store them all and have a nice vessel so you can enjoy them by the Yule log, put a little muddled spice into it. Go to dailywire.com right now. We'll be right back.